sometimes it might be a good idea to take a look at the worship songs we sing on Sundays. Take a look at the theology. Make sure we're on track, huh? There's a song we sing. It's from Psalm 84. And the psalmist writes and says, "Better is one day in your house, better is one day in your courts, better is one day in your house than thousands elsewhere." And even crying out, "My soul faints and cries out and yearns for you, the living God." And the psalmist on that day in the temple, in that place, was caught up in worship and experienced the presence of God. And kind of has this sentence and this phrase of hyperbole, I think, in some ways, saying, better is one day here, experiencing your presence, than thousands elsewhere. Really? Maybe at that time, in that place, but now, with what we're shown in Christ, I think it's much deeper and even more beautiful and better. So maybe we can change the words to the song. Better is one day in your courts and thousands elsewhere. So we don't see the rest of our life as a heaven's second-rate hand-me-down that we throw away and we don't find God in the midst of that life. So better is one day, or better is every day, everywhere, anytime, any place, for connecting with and knowing this love of God. So what do we do with those passages? I think it's even in Amos, through the prophet Amos, where God says, "I despise your religious festivals." What do we do with that passage in Acts 17:24 that says, "God does not dwell in temples made by human hands"? What do we do with that passage in John 4 where Jesus is talking to the woman at the well and he says, "The day will come when people won't worship in a place, but they'll worship in spirit and in truth"? And what do we do with that passage in Matthew 27 where the veil in the temple is torn in two from top to bottom, and we look behind and beyond the curtain, and we find that God isn't there in the temple. So where is God? Out on the cross, out on Golgotha, in the nitty-gritty, everyday, ordinary life, in the nooks and crannies of life, in the grind and in the grandeur of life. You see, it's in God that we live and move in and have our being in, this love that we swim in. And I'm talking maybe to the ones who are sitting in church on a Sunday morning and 30 minutes of singing and a 30-minute lecture isn't doing it for you. And you're dying inside and you're longing for something more, a more authentic and less religious kind of faith. That deep connection with God that you're yearning for. But sometimes the songs that we sing in worship give us a different idea or a different theology of where we find this connection. It's not just in church. If church is working, that's great. And there's something about being in a community of believers that's wonderful and beautiful and helpful to our faith. But it's so much bigger and more beautiful and deep than that. Living in the presence of God. And what happens is we just forget. It's spiritual amnesia. So this is just a reminder today for you that every day is better. Every moment is better in the presence of this love. Life itself is a church. And everything can become holy and sacred when we live in this awareness of the love of God. So may you know this love that surpasses knowledge. May you remind yourself of it today, throughout this day, and see if you get to that point where not just better is one day in church or in that way of connecting, but better is every day, every moment of connecting with this magnificent God of love. So take what's helpful and leave the rest. Until next time, may you live all the days of your life.